Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure, bonus material, The Dad Files. In looking for material to read, I found an old folder that contains every article that I ever wrote about being a dad. From the very first time we knew we were having a baby, all the way through the adult life of my daughter and now her own children. Oh, I always get letters from people who say, hey, when you preach, you talk about your children too much. Well, being a dad is one of the most awesome responsibilities and one of the greatest adventures I've ever had. I hope you'll enjoy The Dad Files. Did you know a home bought or sold can mean that help is given to those in need? With Rosenblum Realty, a portion of their revenue is given to charities and nonprofits every single week. If you believe in helping those in need and are in the market to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, then consider the fact that partnering with Rosenblum Realty means they'll give a contribution to mission work, food distribution, homeless programs, children's education, military and veterans programs, and many other great works. Rosenblum Realty is a fourth-generation family-owned real estate company. To find out how they can help you while helping others, visit givetomycommunity.com. That's givetomycommunity.com, or visit them at rosenblumrealty.com. Rosenblum Realty, making lives a little rosier, one house at a time. The morning routine. Get up, get fed, get ready. Jackie has to leave before I do, so I take Lonnie Beth to school on my way to the office. This is always a good time. The other day, she was sitting on the floor putting on her shoes while I was trying to tie my tie. I sure hope we play roll dodgeball today. I really like roll dodgeball. I never get out and roll dodgeball because I'm so fast. When the boys are in the middle, the girls get to roll. I like that too. I got Corey Holder out yesterday. He never gets out. I'm the only girl to ever get Corey Holder. He's never been hit by a girl, and I'm the only girl to ever hit him. You sound just like your mother. What do you mean by that? Was she the first girl to ever nail you with a dodgeball? Yeah, something like that. I'll explain it to you in about 10 years, I mumbled under my breath. Out of the mouths of babes. Maybe I shouldn't call this stuff The Dad Files and just call it Conversations with Lonnie Beth. Her question was so innocent. And it made sense to her, and in a sense, in a way, it made sense to me too. I spent the rest of the morning remembering the time in my life when I was young, uncatchable. And if you could catch me, you couldn't hold me. I would live forever, and as long as I lived, I'd be young. I remembered the first time I saw those blue eyes. I remember the first time I ate lunch at her house after church, and she knocked me down while we were playing basketball. I remembered trying to keep up with her while she drove that dirt bike down that dirt road. I remember throwing her into Glaze Creek, mainly to convince myself that I could. And I remember being hit, and not with a dodgeball. Helplessly smitten. When's the last time you spent the day remembering how you fell in love with your spouse? I did a few things differently the rest of that day. I took my lunch break and ate lunch at school with Jackie. Trust me, I didn't go for the food. It was the company. When's the last time you thought about how you fell in love with God? Do you remember the excitement, the newness, the expectations? Can you recall the freshness of being a brand new out of the water Christian? Do you still have some of that excitement? Can you easily remember those early days, or does it take a lot of concentration to remember? Can a phrase or a song or a moment stir you to remember how your faith began and then how it matured? John writes and warns a church in the book of the Revelation against leaving their first love. His warning is to remember where they were and to turn and do the first works. Remembering is a good start for renewal. The sound of Captain Crunch being poured into a bowl at pre-6 in the morning is unique. It sounds more like the good captain's ship has run aground and slammed into the bowl. This is the sound that awakened me. Our child is now old enough to forage. I'm lying in bed, and I hear a chair slide across the floor. I hear the pantry door open. I hear the chair being wiggled into place. I hear the plastic bag inside the box rattle as it is unrolled, and I hear the cereal slide, and I heard every little piece of yellow cereal as it collided with the bottom of the bowl. And then I heard that little voice, "Oh man, I'm out of Crunchberries." And then I heard the cereal being poured back into the box. I decided to get up. My theory is this. On these mornings when she wakes up before the alarm clock, she has poured liberal amounts of Captain Crunch with Crunchberries into the bowl. Then, with premeditation and aforethought, she has carefully and meticulously removed the Crunchberries and put the remaining chaff cereal back into the box. Only this morning, her scheme came to a screeching halt. She now has a full box of cereal and no Crunchberries. Personally, I believe it's easier to eat some cereal and some Crunchberries rather than go on a Crunchberry binge and then have to endure cereal without Crunchberries. Many of us treat God like Captain Crunch. We want Crunchberry Christianity, the sweet, colorful, tasty part, but we do not want the commitment of having to finish the rest of the box. I'll let God give me Jesus. I'll take forgiveness, redemption, access to the toll-free, call anytime number, Crunchberries. But that other part, lordship, servanthood, deny self, take up a cross, share in his sufferings, I think I'll pass. Just give me the parts I like. Now, I understand that any illustration or metaphor can be taken to the extreme, so I don't think I'm going to get on a righteousness by works kick here, but let's face it. Until you are willing to finish the rest of the box, there really aren't going to be any Crunchberries. There is not forgiveness without submission. There is no redemption without being bought. Bought implies ownership by someone else. Faith is not genuine unless it is authenticated by obedience. Faith is not believing in God. Faith is believing God and doing what he says. Why pray for answers if the willingness to heed them is absent? See, if we try to take only what we want or like and put the rest back into the box, hoping no one will notice, we may find that the only one we fooled is ourselves. And we may find out that what we've ruined is much, much more important than breakfast. "20 years ago, I was invited to be a guest at a special conference called Challenge Youth Conference. It's better known to most people as CYC. I've been a guest speaker there for the last 20 years and been privileged to work with their board. It's an annual event. It takes place in Dallas on Martin Luther King weekend, and it takes place in Pigeon Forge at the LeConte Center on the last weekend in February. This year, 2022, it will be January 14 through 16 at the Dallas Marriott in Las Colinas, Texas. It will happen February 25 through 27 at Pigeon Forge in the LeConte Center. The theme for 2022 is for me. From the beginning, God had a plan for you and for me. The different topics will be creation for me, redemption for me, and heaven for me. Some of your favorite teachers, along with Ben and Travis, and the Skits with a Truth guys, the SWAT team, will guide you through this spiritually equipping weekend. CYC is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. You may find out more information, 3 W's and a dot, cyconline.com, www.cyconline.com. We read stories most nights. Now she's beginning to try to read herself. She knows that every story has a title, an author, and usually an illustrator. The bedtime routine usually involves a talk, our prayers, a story, and the night-night song. She used to ask for stories about me and Uncle Gerald when we were little. Last night, out of the blue, she asked for the story of the rainbow monster. I haven't told that story in a long time. You see, several years ago, we had this problem with monsters in our house. Now, when we bought the house, I had been careful to look around and make sure that the place looked to be one that has never had any problems with monsters. In fact, we had been assured that this whole neighborhood was pretty well monster-free. And some nights, I even sprayed the closets with monster spray once in a while just to make sure. Monster spray comes in a yellow can, smelled like lemons, and the code word for monster spray is PLEDGE. Well, apparently we still had a monster problem, so I told her the story of the rainbow monster. After I told the story last night, she wanted to know who had written the story of the rainbow monster. I confess that I was the creator of the story, each and every part. The monster, the cave where he hides the rainbows, and even the princess with blue eyes, whose eyes are almost as blue as Lonnie Beth's. Did you draw some pictures too? Well, no, but I probably could if I thought she'd like that. She decided that would be okay if I were to write it all down and draw some pictures. Of course, I had to use pretty colors in the pictures and not just my black pen. That's the influence of her mother there. And maybe one day I'll actually get around to do that. Maybe one day she will read a story to her children. And when she opens the book, it will say, written for Lonnie Elizabeth Jones. It would have to be pretty neat to have a story written for you. You'd have to feel pretty special. Maybe you should look differently at your Bible. Maybe we should write inside the covers just that little note. Written for my children. So that you do not have to be afraid of monsters, the dark, of sin, or of dying. Everything done or said in this book is because I love you. We need to know that it is indeed implied in the most special book ever written. And we need to know that the writer is our Father. Yeah, I guess that should make us feel pretty special. I wonder why that book is not more valuable to us. Read John 3:16, read John 20, 30, and 31, and spend the rest of the day telling people about your own special story written just for you, written by your Father. We're on a road trip the other day, headed all the way to Tuscaloosa for the Crimson Tide's homecoming game. We'd been in the car long enough for a 6-year-old to get bored. Okay, we'd been in the car way past the point where a 6-year-old could get bored. As we cruised along, this little voice piped up and said, "Daddy, can I write on my hand with this ink pen?" "No, you may not." Notice how I was modeling the correct usage of the phrase, rather than making a big deal out of using can for may or anything like that. This parenting stuff is getting to be a breeze. And then that's when she countered. The same sweet voice came from the back with, "I was just going to write, 'I love you, Dad,' on my hand." And there you have it. The little voice in my head echoed, "Modeled the correct way to say no to that, tough guy." The conflict was not about the content of the message, The conflict was about contact with the ink on her skin. She thought the message might make a difference to the rule. Steve Farrar says there's a difference in reasons that sound good and good sound reasoning. I add, those two concepts are so far apart, they're not even friends on Facebook. We try the same kinds of things with God. We rationalize that anything done out of love for God should be acceptable. And we like to argue about certain things that are doctrinally specific on the basis of love and not on the basis of Scripture. Don't get me wrong. The two are not mutually exclusive. Jesus says himself, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. And so obeying God and loving God are essentially the same thing. Jesus also said, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but only he who does the will of my Father. In fact, he adds, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, done many works in your name? But I will declare, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. Jesus seems to indicate that he can tell the difference in wanting to write, I love you on our hands, and just wanting to write on our hands. The hands of Jesus are written on, and they are clearly marked. And those marks indicate love because they demonstrate his commitment to obedience. He became obedient, even to the point of death. Even to the point of death on a cross. His hands are clearly marked. I nudged Jackie between worship and announcements yesterday and asked her if she remembered what she felt like on Sunday, August the 27th, a year ago. Of course, she did not, because she was in la la land thanks to medical science. Dr. Wheeler had walked up and informed us that if the birth had not occurred by noon, then we would take the baby out by cesarean section. Cesarean really is a safe way to deliver babies, and it's not really too traumatic on anybody. Now, for the first couple of years, our daughter preferred to go in and out of windows instead of doors. Has it been 6 years? There's this little individual at my house, and she plays with Barbies and loves to imitate the Power Rangers martial arts, and who wanted her very own climbing harness for her birthday. Uncle Gerald stole the show. He's the uncle that's not married and has no children of his own, and he stole the birthday show by giving her a BB gun. He had it delivered to our house by UPS. Yes, the neighbors have been issued Kevlar. She has her mother's eyes and is possessed with the propensity to burst into song. Any song, from Pocahontas' theme to Garth Brooks' Friends in Low Places. She doesn't care if the words are right. She just likes to sing. I know that one day I'll wake up and ask myself, has it been 16 years? It won't be any fun to climb with your dad anymore, because by then she'll be able to outclimb me very easily. I will no longer be the strongest man in the world. Some rippled arm pencil neck quarterback will probably be. I'll feel better about the premature shooting lessons by then, I guess. What she will be at 16 is a combination of several things. She will have a sense of what we say is important. She will have her own sense of what she thinks is important. And she'll be influenced by what her friends assure her is important. And of course, there's the TV and the radio and other media. What kind of choices will she make? Odds are that they will not be 100% great. By then, our ability to influence her choices will be somewhat limited. Between now and then, we have to do work in several areas. We must develop the ability to communicate openly with her about anything. She must be comfortable talking to us about the things that she feels awkward about, and we must be comfortable talking to her about the things we feel awkward about. We must teach her that we can be trusted and that the importance of our being able to trust her. She must know that she will bear the responsibility for her choices. She must learn to make good decisions based on good thinking. She must see us live consistent lives. She must see us love and respect each other and the others around us. She must learn to love herself. And with the ability to love yourself comes the ability to love other people. She must know there is a place where she is always loved and always wanted, even in times of failure. There's nothing she can do to make us love her more. There's nothing she can do to make us love her less. She is just loved. And she must see Jesus living in us. In 1998, I opened up my private practice. I moved to a little small office on South Memorial Parkway, and across the hall from my office was a absolutely charming Southern gentleman named Mr. Walt Bartee. He and his sister Ann ran Walt Bartee Coins and Bullion. This little shop was eventually taken over by their grandson, Jared Bentley. Jared is one of the most pleasant people you'll ever do business with. If you're interested in investing in gold or silver, call Walt Bartee Coins and Bullion, 256-883-9004, 256-883-9004, or use the 800 number, 1-800-608-6052. That's 1-800-608-6052.